Hi, welcome back to Engine Shop Joe. Tonight is going to be a shorter video, but I've got some pretty cool things coming up, things that I was excited about. When you do this for a long time, it takes a lot to get you excited. It's usually not good either. Coming up, we're going to be talking about an L9 that had blow-by, and it completely fooled me, the reason why. And you'll see that, and you'll see how we went through the troubleshooting to find out what we thought was wrong. This engine was in a great big Western Star boom truck. It was kind of a beast of a truck. And in fact, they ended up pulling the engine out to send it to us to have it rebuilt once we figured out what's wrong, because it was just a bear. So we've got that coming up, and some things on data buses. I've got a really wild video. It'll probably be out. I think I'm going to put that one out the 23rd of December, right before Christmas, so that you can be wanting to watch videos instead of paying attention to other people. I'll get you in trouble, right? So that'll be a real good one. That one was a brain teaser to figure out, and the guy that was working at it with me was pretty darn smart. So I think you'll enjoy that one. But anyway, there's a lot of diverse and interesting things coming up. Tonight we're going to take a look at just one slide. It's a fault snapshot. And the reason that I wanted you to see this one is because it's a little bit unusual. And you're going to see what probably become old hat to a lot of you, faults-wise. But there's some other stuff in here that maybe you didn't run into, and we're going to talk about how we fixed it. So without further ado, let's get going on Engine Shop Joe. So here's our slide. I color coded this, so anyway, I tried. So up in the top left, this is, there's three colors of text. There's purple, blue, and then red. If you look down below, you'll see the faults outlined in purple, blue, and red. So the verbiage applies to the colored block. So in the middle, we've got our two D rates, right? And remember, D rates are just caused by other faults. They don't just pop up in and of themselves. They're forced on the system by the ECM and the OBD system so that a problem gets fixed. So in this case, those faults were there because of, if you look down in the red, lo and behold, who would have believed the DEF tank float assembly had some kind of a problem and had failed. So I'm not sure on this one if it was because the tank temperature got too hot or if it was just a failure. But I believe they changed that float assembly and that fixed that problem. But what I wanted you to see that was unusual was the pinkish rectangle or purple rectangle up at the top that's got accelerator pedal lever, idle validation switch, abnormal update rate, accelerator pedal position 1 abnormal update rate, and a multiplexing timeout error. And if you look over the timestamps, the very first fault happened at just the same time for all three. And if you look at the last fault, you notice that the 1939 timeout error ended 3 seconds before the other faults ended. So in other words, the timeout error went away and the other faults went inactive. So what ended up fixing this was an update to the VECU in the dash. I don't know why, but sometimes you'll update an ECM code and then you'll start having problems with timing errors or faults. If it's in a truck, always check the dash or truck module, the truck controller. We call it the VECU, the Vehicle Electronic Control Unit. Usually all the switches in the cab, the gas pedal, brake pedal, all that stuff goes into that module, and that module streams data back and forth to the engine's ECM. And in this case, that module was not streaming accelerator pedal or lever position or I should say idle validation, to the ECM, and it was causing this fault. Back in the day when they first started multiplexing things, a common problem was the oil pressure gauge would quit working, or the water temperature gauge would quit working. And all we would do is update the ECM calibration. That's when I worked at Cummins, and that would fix it. And the Cummins would have a fix. They'd have a service letter back then. They didn't have quick serve with all the data that's there now. They'd have service parts topics. We get them every month. You'd read through them, and it'd say, oh, if the oil pressure gauge gets working, just update the calibration, a fix is coming. Stuff like that. So that still holds true today. So if you've got problems with timing errors and they're quick and they go away, first thing, update the engine ECM and update the dash ECU or VECU. I know I say that sort of like it's very easy to do. I know it costs money and you have to go make an appointment unless you got a shop that takes care of those things. But a lot of times it fixes it. So thanks for joining me on Engine Shop Joe. Don't forget to subscribe.